Today's video is kindly sponsored by jerseyfifa.com, the website you need to head to right away to get yourself the latest high quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. And what's even better than that, you can use code JerseyFIFA at checkout to get 10% off your order. The link will be in the description, but again I just want to say a massive thank you to Jersey FIFA for sponsoring the video. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today I'll be doing analysis of last night's big London derby clash between Chelsea and Arsenal in the Premier League. As we can see, both teams were without a few big names, either through injury or rotation from the two managers, but let's just get started by going straight into the analysis. So we'll start with Chelsea, and when they had the ball in their own defensive third, they came under a lot of pressure, with Arsenal's front four in particular looking to squeeze high up the pitch on the press. It's exactly what we can see on screen here, and it's something that we continue to see for large periods of the game, with Arsenal putting in a real effort to push high up the pitch, and it really stopped Chelsea from playing out. Chelsea also weren't helped by the fact that Mendy in goal had a rather shaky performance in possession, and whenever he went long the pass was poor, and at one stage he had 53% pass completion. Despite this, there were still occasions when Chelsea got through the press, which caused Arsenal to drop into more of a mid-block, which as a result allowed Chelsea to build possession in a 3-1 system. Typically, Chelsea tend to build possession with an extra man in a 3-2 shape, but that wasn't the case in this game, with Kante often operating as a singular pivot in the Chelsea midfield to build possession. Now, Kante isn't exactly the best for this position due to his flaws in possession, and again we saw a match where he was largely unable to progress the ball through the pitch into dangerous areas. One player who had slightly more luck was Loftus-Cheek, who was often asked to drop slightly deeper to get the ball, before then looking to move possession forward either by passing or dribbling himself. It was only a few days ago that I was praising Loftus-Cheek for his ball carrying abilities, and again he had spells where he looked good, but overall he just didn't really have enough of an impact on the match overall. Ultimately it felt a little bit like a typical Loftus-Cheek performance, having put a brilliant performance in the other day before then coming into this game and underwhelming slightly, although he wasn't bad by any means. His ability to carry the ball forward was still important as it progressed to play for Chelsea, which as a result allowed Azpilicueta to be brought into the game, who looked to bomb forward from right wing back. Again, that's what we can see here with Azpilicueta 3 down the right hand side with plenty of space to run into, and this of course allowed him to take the ball into the final third with relative ease. Overall, I thought that Azpilicueta had a pretty decent game, attempting 2 crosses into the box, was also grabbing himself a goal, having made the run into a more narrow area. However, Chelsea's biggest threat came down the left hand side instead, with Mount being given the freedom to drift about the pitch to get the ball, before then looking to carry the ball towards the final third. Drifting into these areas allowed Mount to get a decent amount of the ball before he then completed 3 key passes, again grabbing the assist for that Azpilicueta goal thanks to his vision and passing ability. Overall, I felt that Mount was another player who had a decent match with bright moments, without ever really setting the game alight, and I think he'll feel as though he could have done more to create more for his team. Even without this creativity, his ball progressing was still important, because it allowed Chelsea to move the ball forward down the left, where Alonso was looking to make the run forward into these advanced wide areas. We all know that Alonso doesn't need a second invitation to get into these forward roles, and it was the same again in this game, although his position did change at times, which I'll come back to in a few seconds time. But first, just on Alonso, it really does feel like games like these are the ones where Chelsea really miss the attacking ability of Ben Chilwell, and Chelsea just aren't the same without him playing at left wing back. As I said, Alonso's position did also change, as he often looked to make runs into more central areas, which as a result left room out wide, which allowed Werner to get the ball out wide before then cutting inside. We saw Werner in this sort of position time and time again, and it allowed him to receive the ball in a bit of space before then travelling inside, and it was this sort of pattern of play that allowed Werner to get his goal. Personally, I felt as though Werner was one of Chelsea's more exciting players in the final third, and even if he did lack the real quality that was needed, he was still the one that was trying to make something happen. But it did just feel as though the Chelsea attack was really lacking something, and that was Havertz up front, and his brilliant movement and ability to link the attack together, and Chelsea just weren't the same without him. I can understand why Tuchel rested him because he has had a lot of game time in the past couple of months, but this game showed just why he has been playing so much, because they're not the same without him. So next up, it's time to talk about Arsenal, and most of the time when they got the ball it was in their own defensive third once they had tackled Chelsea, but as we'd expect they soon faced an intense counter-press. We've seen that Chelsea committed a lot of players forward to the attack, which allowed them to quickly counter-press when they lost the ball, and it was of course actually this that led to one of Chelsea's goals. As a result, this meant that Arsenal found it difficult to get much possession in the game, with Arteta asking his side to defend more, but as we'd expect there were also occasions when they got more of the ball. When Arsenal built the ball from the back, they were actually faced by a flawed pressing shape from Chelsea, with Mount often finding himself outnumbered by the two Arsenal holding midfielders either side of him. This is what we can see here, and it allowed Arsenal to play the ball out from the back far too easily. However, Tuchel soon spotted this, so he moved Loftus-Cheek higher to address this issue in the press. We all know how intelligent Tuchel is, and it was slightly surprising to see the issue in the first place, but it was soon addressed by the manager, and once again it made it really difficult for Arsenal to ever dominate the ball. As a result, Arsenal were forced to move the ball forward much quicker, and one way for them to progress the play was through Ben White on the right hand side, who often looked to step forward into the middle third. We've seen Ben White playing at right back in the past, and when in this position it is quite common to see him carrying the ball forward, and this was the one way that Arsenal had some joy finally progressing the play. As a result, this then allowed players like Elneny and Xhaka to get some touches on the ball in the centre, as Arsenal got through the press and were now able to find a way forward towards the Chelsea goal. Another player that was instrumental in the ball progression was Odegaard, who was able to pick the ball up in a pocket of space in the midfield, which then allowed him to turn and play the ball forward to a teammate. Despite regularly starting in an attacking midfield position, Odegaard nearly always looks to drop into this little bit of space, before then looking to carry the ball forward into the final third before linking the play. This probably wasn't Odegaard's cleanest game in possession, however he still managed to complete 3 key passes, which just shows the quality that he possesses, and he's been brilliant all season long. One player that benefited from the positioning of Odegaard was of course Saka, who was able to pick the ball up out wide before then looking to attack Alonso in the 1 versus 1 time and time again throughout the match. Saka's ball carrying abilities have been up there with some of the best in the Premier League this season, and every time he got into this sort of position it looked like he had the beating of Alonso to get towards the box. Saka is always a joy to watch due to his direct style of play, and I also thought that it was a big moment for him to finish the penalty so confidently and emphatically after his disappointment last summer. Arsenal continued to progress the ball down this side of the pitch before then playing the ball across into more central areas, and in this situation we regularly saw Smith Rowe popping up late despite starting wide. Smith Rowe regularly drifted into this little pocket of space in behind the Chelsea midfield line, and it was from this exact area that he got his goal, and he actually took the chance really well with a quality finish. Smith Rowe actually had the least touches of any Arsenal player that started the game, and we didn't see him showing off his dribbling ability like normal. Instead, it was his timing of movement that was impressive in the final third. This movement into central areas was also useful due to the space that it created down the left hand side, with Azpilicueta getting dragged in slightly, which allowed Tavares to bomb forward. The form of Tavares has been rather poor lately, and to be honest it still wasn't exactly his greatest game. However, his athleticism alone was enough to take advantage of the space out wide to get into the final third, and ultimately this was the way that Arsenal looked to attack, regularly using their youth and energy to attack the open spaces, although to be honest the end product wasn't a quality that we would expect. Although one player that did provide some excellent end product was Nketiah, and I thought it was very impressive the way that he took his 2 chances, because in general he wasn't really given much of a sniff, but when the ball fell to him in the final third, he was very clinical with his finishing. Overall, it was a bit of a weird game because despite winning the game 4-2, Arsenal didn't actually create very many chances, and they actually only had 1.89 expected goals, with majority of their big chances coming from some sort of Chelsea error. Ultimately, it was this clinical finishing from Arsenal which got them the win, but I also felt that they defended reasonably well as well. Now, this might sound slightly odd considering Chelsea managed to score 2 goals, but one was extremely fortunate with the deflection, and again I thought that Chelsea really struggled to create any real opportunities. This will leave Tuchel extremely disappointed because his side just didn't trouble the Arsenal defence anywhere near enough, whilst he will also be disappointed with his team's work up the other end as well, with some really poor mistakes, but at the end of the day it was a massive 3 points for Arsenal in the race for top 4. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.